Simone Biles announced that she is withdrawing from the Tokyo Summer Olympics. In light of this shocking development, in this video, I'm going to break down why this happens and also what this means for sport parents everywhere. Let's dive in. In the last few years, there have been a number of prominent athletes who have come forward discussing the mental health challenges that they've faced due to all of the exposure and the pressure that they constantly face. Big names such as Kevin Love, Michael Phelps, Gracie Gold, Naomi Osaka, and now Simone Biles have all done the world a massive favor by finally shedding some light on an aspect of sport that up until now has gone largely untold. The Simone Biles story has been covered a ton by the media, but I actually think there's a couple very important conversations that have yet to have been had that we're going to discuss in this video. The first conversation is, why does this even happen to these athletes in the first place? How is it that these athletes who are so incredibly talented and hardworking and gifted and motivated, how do they find themselves consistently in these situations where they have these mental health struggles? The second conversation is what this means for sport parents of today and sport parents of tomorrow. What should the parents of developing athletes and performers be considering as they navigate the world of sport with their child? We're going to cover all that and more in this episode, so you make sure that you stay tuned all the way to the end. Before we dive into those conversations, if you have an athlete and you'd like them to actually make an investment into the mental side of their sport, I've got a great place for you to start. And good news, it's free. I want you to get over to trainwithperk.com/free guide. That free guide takes 10 minutes to get through, and it includes 3 easy to install steps that any athlete or performer can use to help them better mentally prepare for their next big moment. Again, that's trainwithperk.com/free guide. All right, so let's discuss how this actually happens. Let's break down how these incredibly talented, driven, and hardworking athletes find themselves in these situations. And in spite of the internet trolls out there who say this generation is soft and this is what you get from the participation trophy, there's absolutely nothing to do with this. And honestly, are these people on the internet for real with this garbage? The reason this is happening is due to one thing: pressure. Not atmospheric pressure, not tire pressure, psychological pressure.
She's an ultimate champion, the top of her sport.
If you think you are the GOAT, quitting is unacceptable.
How dare you call her a quitter?
It is confirmed it is not injury related.
This might be a mental health thing. Where is that coming from?
My childhood and everything that's happened to me.
You have no idea what's going on in her head.
I think it's very hard for someone to go through what I've gone through recently.
Is she supposed to do gymnastics when she's suicidal?
The pressure of the world on you, and then in addition, unbeknownst to any of us, you were dealing with that too.
Everybody knows about Larry Nassar and what happened.
Now, for the last couple months on my channel, I've been releasing episodes of my Performing Under Pressure series. So for the next couple of minutes, I'm actually going to be talking about a few things that I've actually deep dived over on that series. So I'll make sure to leave the link below if you want to check that out as well. Put simply, psychological pressure occurs when we as an individual find ourselves in a situation where we feel like our identity is threatened. Now, a person's identity, your identity, my identity, is really made up of 2 things. The first is how we find value in ourselves, and the second way is how do we perceive that the world around us values us. So the key here is worth. Our identity is basically how we find worth in ourselves. So when anybody finds themselves in a situation where the result of that situation, if they perceive that that result is going to impact how other people around them find worth and value in themselves, or maybe more impactfully, how that result is going to challenge how much they value themselves, that person is going to feel pressure. So for you, that could be performing well in a meeting or crushing a presentation at your job. For Simone Biles, this means going out and executing her bar, floor, vault, and beam routine. Here's the difference though. If you go out and you perform terribly or you bomb that presentation, yes, it's going to be a little embarrassing, and yes, your coworkers might give you a hard time, but honestly, that's probably the only thing that's going to happen. Odds are you're not going to lose your job over one poor presentation. If Simone Biles, however, goes out there and sucks, she's all over the news. It's all over SportsCenter. And what else do you think is going to happen? The social media world, those same trolls that are calling her soft now for withdrawing, are going to absolutely destroy her on social media. And so this is the one critical element that separates you from her: exposure. Imagine every single day you woke up, the entire world was watching. If you so much as cut somebody off in traffic, everybody knows about it. This exposure is honestly the part of sport that I think really draws us in. We admire these athletes, and my God, we should. But what we really admire is their ability to go out in front of everyone and deliver an incredible performance, even though they truly are just so incredibly exposed. They are constantly exposed to critique, criticism, and evaluation every single day. And it's only now that we're actually starting to ask the question, is that healthy? When the name Simone Biles is said, 99% of the world's population who's ever heard of her name thinks in their head immediately, Simone Biles, the USA gymnast. And inherently, there's nothing wrong with that, unless Simone Biles also starts to see that the entirety of her value to the world is also as Simone Biles, the gymnast. If she forgets that she's also a daughter, a sibling, a friend, that she has hobbies in her life outside of gymnastics, if she forgets about all those other roles that she has in her life, then she's going to be in real trouble. So good for her for walking away, because I guarantee you that that was a harder decision than most people will ever have to make.
And that to me meant a lot. I know that's not how we envision things, to happen, but life happens. And I'm glad that she stood up, and her safety, meaning in terms of mentally and physically, she advocated for that. So that meant a lot to me. And then to finish on a high note where she actually trusts herself to do one routine, and that was the last routine. And then she medaled on that. I mean, that's the best bronze medal ever.
At the end of the day, we're not just athletes or entertainment, we're human too, and we have real emotions, and sometimes they don't realize that we have things going on behind the scenes that affects us whenever we go out and compete.
For you parents watching this experience of Simone Biles probably doesn't necessarily apply as much to you. But doesn't it apply to your young athlete? Because of course, there's nothing inherently wrong about an athlete that feels pressure. It's motivating, and they feel that way because they care, and so they're going to be working harder towards accomplishing the goals that they have within that thing. That's a healthy amount of pressure. But there are young developing athletes who exist. I know this because I've met them, who think or who have allowed what they do to become so much of who they are that they think their sport is almost the entirety of the worth that they have to the world around them. Simone Biles in an interview has said that at times it feels like the weight of the world is on her shoulders. Now, most people hear that and they think to themselves, yeah, it must be challenging representing your country at the Olympics. When I saw that quote, I actually saw something completely different. I saw an athlete that was saying, the weight of my world is on my shoulders. If I don't perform well, what is that going to mean to the people around me that are closest to me? What are they going to think? These people who have invested so much in me, what's going to happen then if I don't perform well here? That's an incredibly, incredibly heavy weight to bear. That right there is what some of these young developing athletes also have to deal with. I know this because I talk to them every single week. They often think to themselves, if I don't perform well in this moment, what are the people that are closest to me going to think of me? And one last point here for all you sport parents is that it might actually be time for you to start training your athletes mentally as hard as you have done physically. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already yet, make sure that you get over there, trainwithpert.com/free guide. I'll see you next week.